Good morning from beautiful Cusco. We're up nice and early to avoid all the tourists that gather about during the day. This is going to be a walking and talking video. I just want to explore the city and I want you all to come and enjoy it with me. It is pretty early in the morning. It's around 6 a.m. Sunrise here is around 5:45, which is ridiculously early if you think about it, but we've kind of adjusted our sleep schedules to that. And it's actually kind of cold. I think my phone said it was around 46 degrees this morning, which is a little bit chilly for someone like me, which is why I'm all bundled up. So the first stop that we wanted to come to is called the Coricancha. It was the Incan Empire's most sacred, beloved temple, the place that their people would go to worship, to speak to their gods, and then go tell their people exactly what their gods had said to them. When the Spanish conquest happened, they came, they destroyed the temple and then built their own church on top of it. However, they left the base of the original Incan temple. So it's just a nice reminder of the beauty, the people that once were here. Oh yeah, another thing that is very noticeable around this city and even on this new church is the differences between the stones that the Incans laid and the stones that the Spanish tried to replicate. However, little did they know or find out that they would never be able to fully replicate exactly what the Incans did. Lots of cars at all times of the day, night. Oh yeah, the streets that are right next to me, well, they're not completely cobblestone. They are some type of brick that's been laid down that's not very common in normal streets. And when you ride across it, it's very reminiscent of the cobblestone streets that we found in Rome. That's why the cars sound a little bit louder going across it.
There's a hotel attached to this.
Oh yeah, there is a hotel now that is attached to the church that the Spanish laid on top of the original Incan temple. It's one of the more, I guess, well-known hotels around the area.
So this is the main church.
So we're coming across what I would believe to be the entrance. It's the Convento de Santo Domingo, which is the name of the Spanish church that was laid. And then in a remembrance plaque, they tell you about the Coricancha and what once was. So always a reminder. I think that's the beauty of this city is, despite the Spanish conquest, we still remember the Incans and everything that they did, and what this beautiful city was once about, which I think is important, especially when it comes to history. These stones, the big ones are the ones that the Incans had laid down. The smaller ones are, of course, the ones that the Spanish tried to replicate. Again, I say replicate in a very vague term. They never fully replicated what the Incans did. So right now, going from the Coricancha, we are currently walking to the main plaza of Cuzco, which it's not that far of a walk. You'll notice most things are pretty much walking distance, but again, sometimes the walking distance feels a little bit longer due to the altitude. So the street that we're on now is really cool. You can see where the water once flew. Obviously water doesn't fly. Where the water once, went through to get to the people here in the city. I do have a little bit of the sniffles. I wasn't one of the lucky people who showed up to Cusco and had 0 issues with the altitude. The first day was okay. I had some altitude sickness, so I thought I was going to be fine. Wake up the next day. Whew, it really hit me then. So, ooh. This looks like part of the courtyard where there's stones laid out kind of like in the Coricancha, where I am assuming where, they would still go, still worship, still speak to their gods, which was mostly the sun god. You'll see in a lot of the artwork, and even after the Spanish conquest, they still replicated parts of the sun, the triangle shape, the temple. So we are getting a little bit closer to the city, but I didn't mean the city, I meant the main plaza, excuse me. But I wanted to show off this really cool pathway. It's pretty unique, and I say unique in the sense of you can literally see 2 worlds that has come together. On the bottom part, you see the original foundation of where the Incans were, where they lived. And then on the top, you see the very colonial-esque style that the Spanish brought. And there's it looks like a literal line between 2 cultures. And the really cool thing is the ancestors of the Incans still very much live here and they thrive here. Yeah, and These are now hotels, gift shops, little stores, little reminders of just where you're at. The balconies are absolutely beautiful, very Spanish-esque. And you'll see that a lot through Cusco, through Lima. The city, for the most part, I consider this rather quiet, but the city, in just a few hours, will be filled with lots of noises, lots of people, tourists, locals, dogs. They're gonna be waking up from their siestas and out looking for people to give them food, good pets. Big step. So we're coming up upon another church. It looks really cool. It's very reminiscent for me of like the type of churches you'll find all over Europe. The ones that we found pretty much all over Italy, especially like the one in Florence, my favorite one, the Duomo.
How you can see a big church through an alley.
Hmm?
It's kind of cool how you can see a big church just pop up through an alley.
Oh yeah. It's just really cool, like walking and then you just see this huge structure and you automatically know that it's a church. Just because of the architecture, the dome. Like I said, it's very European-esque. Remind me of the Duomo, except on a much smaller scale. But the Duomo is very similar like that. You could see the dome from many points of the city that just pops up. And it looks rather old. You can see some of the paintings, but it looks like it's been really worn. More dogs. It's probably my favorite thing, but it also makes me a little sad. But a lot of them do look really happy. Like this little black dog. He's just cruising the streets without a care in the world. We are currently walking down a really cool pathway, and it leads all the way down to the famous 12-point stone. So it's like a cool dramatic lead up to this huge monument that is still part of Cusco. Although you still see some of the Spanish and what they tried to do, but they just, as I keep saying, they tried to replicate it, tried, failed. So another thing to point out with how early it is it's pretty much the only time of day that you'll find more locals than tourists in the city. But that's going to change in a couple of hours. The city's going to be filled with everybody. I do suggest being careful when you're walking down this path. There are a lot of loose, well, not loose, but unevenness of a lot of the bricks, the cobblestones. Huh? So here we are, the famous 12-point stone, and it is what people call the mastermind of, the master class of the Incan engineering. Mind you, these stones were cut precisely to fit each other like a jigsaw puzzle. And on top of all of that, you'll see that there are no mortar, there's nothing holding it together except the fact that they fit perfectly. And it is said that they fit so perfectly tight together that you would not be able to place anything. There's no room to put anything in between it. And it's still standing to this day without anything, any glue, mortar. And you can see it all through this pathway, all of them. And it's so cool that even the stones on the bottom, where the other stones were laid on top of it that didn't reach to help assimilate the height that was needed. And even those stones have perfect fit. I think that's where the Spanish kind of failed in their attempts to replicate. They didn't have a clue. They thought that they saw the way it was done. They're like, oh, this looks easy. We can do it. But in the stones that you see the Spanish have laid down, they don't fit like jigsaw puzzles. You see the mortar holding it together, and it just looks like it belongs to two different worlds almost. Which in theory, I guess, that is the case, right? We are finally approaching the main plaza of Cusco. This is pretty much the meeting point and where you'll find locals and tourists alike. We've been here a couple of times already. It's a really nice place to just come and relax. Even with a lot of people, it's still relatively quiet. I think people just come to people watch, to take the entire city, the culture, the history in. We're approaching one of the Spanish churches. And there's two, I think they're both churches. The one that we seen with the dome coming up, and then the one that is currently on my right. Both of Spanish architect. Mind you, when they came in Europe, it was during the Renaissance period, so the architect and the churches remind me very much of that, which is one of my favorite time periods. I think that's why I loved Florence so much too. And I think the city very much reminds me of that, gives me that vibe. And here we are, the main plaza. So you can see there's more people here. It's where people congregate. In a couple of hours, this place will be packed. And it's cool because you see locals, tourists, every culture alike come and gather here. Doors are open to this church, so we're just gonna take a little peek-see inside. Oh wow. Now that is a welcome and entrance. Most churches that I've seen, you know, you have your entrance and you just walk in and you have, you know, the big cathedral where everybody sits down and congregates, and usually, you know, there's a lot of beautiful paintings and little details that go into it. But this big, like, welcome.
It says do not come there inside.
Oh yeah. And I, you know, obviously this is a place that tourists want to come and they see. But yeah, there is a sign that says, you know, tells tourists not to come when there is this, you know, service going on, out of respect. You know, people want to worship their gods and, you know, and what they believe in peace, without people gawking over the beauty of the church, because there's other times that, you know, you can come back and do that. So just be respectful. I'm always amazed by how fat the pigeons are here in Peru. My friend and I, we always joke that the pigeons have mass gains. Like, the pigeons in the US don't get that fat. Like, they don't fear anything. Starting into such a beautiful day. It's starting to warm up. So we're gonna cut it here. We've showed you some of our favorite parts of the city. The main parts that you as a tourist or you as somebody who's visiting or whatever it is that you're here will definitely want to come see. But I appreciate you all coming along with me. Ciao!